spawning in the bottom side of the map here on Scarlet Isle. His name is Snoxtar.
And then the top of Scarlet Isle here, the red Vanguard player, this MaNa.
MaNa.
Do.
Elmo's World.
We keep going the wrong direction.
I considered going on the same direction as you. You gave me the setup.
I did.
I was like, hey, you know, I can do that. And then I'm like, nah.
Nah. Ah, got him. Pranked.
It's more fun like this.
Yeah, I know. I am kind of curious and perplexed as to the direction of this series. It's going to be best of 5, so there will be some importance in the maps that get called here. But a map that is quite tall and has a rather long rush distance, we'll call it that. And Snoxstar is opening up Iron Vault Conclave after the Shrine. That should be kind of an interesting first battle here for Stormgates, but does MaNa... Okay, there's MaNa's barracks. I was like, MaNa doesn't even have a first barracks up yet. Yes, he does. And he's also getting Therium alongside it, so it's going to be hedgies.
It's a bit awkward, right? So this map in particular, you have one base on the right side of the main base, one base on the left side of the main base. Infernal structures build a lot slower if they're off Shroud. So you want to use your first 2 effigies because you spawn with 50 energy, that's 2 effigies. You want to use your first 2 effigies to get your natural up. Bring it in from the main. What that means is that you can't go for a quick third base on this map in any way sort of efficient play. So you go, you get the natural up, that gives you enough effigies to go be able to get your third base up. It kind of, based on the map geometry, does kind of slow down any sort of like triple shrine play. If this was, say short circuit or something, a little bit easier to go and get set up. But for now, that's what we're looking at, is a scout is made. Trying to see what's happening. Seems like these fiends are far more efficient scouts than any scout that might otherwise exist. And look at how MaNa's expanding, by the way. He's doing the good old Terran thing. He's expanding directly to his opponent because he knows his rally will theoretically defend any sort of aggression. And, you know, when we talk about Harbingers dropping into this base, that can often be very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to go about it, is just remove the challenge altogether. You could just get back there and fortify it with a bunch of sentry posts, and honestly, like, why do you just you know that you want to be towards your opponent anyways, you want your production up front, why waste the resources and just cut the middleman out? So I don't hate this. I like this from MaNa. I think it's a smart choice. It is going to prevent him from really putting a whole lot of aggression onto this first Stormgate, but the reality is Snoxstar doesn't have that much either. So I think maybe 3 hedgehogs could dance with this a little bit. Part of me wonders if it's just going to prompt like one person steps into the ring that everybody can see, and maybe that'll prompt the engagement. But it is quite interesting that neither player really rushed out to meet that first Stormgate.
Yeah, really, it's a product of a map, right? You're going to go, this is a map that does kind of give you 3 bases for free, even if, as we talked about, a little bit awkward with how the Infernal wants to take it. So if you're going for quick third base, maybe you're not going to try to be on the map as quickly. Now, it does take a while for the Vanguard player to go take this first Stormgate. A little bit easier with a couple Fiends or a couple Brutes, kind of just do a little bit more damage per second because, you know, because of how just Hedgehog damage works and how backloaded it is into versus heavy. But there's our Power Stone, and Power Stones, if you get this, go get a Vulcan. Like, I think that is your play, although as it's funny, I said, yes, Vulcan. Well, it's going to be a Hedgehog. And I'm a little surprised here. I think Vulcan, like Power Stoning a Vulcan, is the singular best option to put into Avatar form with how much it scales with attack speed.
Yeah, but I kind of like the ability to be really aggressive here up front. He's got a couple of Lancers to body block at the front, and suddenly this becomes a pushing point. I think Snoxtar's done a really good job of dropping the tribute pyres in the spots that he has, so he's got decent coverage. And I do like that these gremlins do a little bit of range damage as well. That's a nice change. I know that's not like a recent change, but recent enough in the past couple of patches. So kind of a cool little balance moment here. Oh, he thought about it. MaNa thought about diving up into the main base just to see what was there, but I think it's smart that he didn't. Infernal Fury is now done, so this army is going to have to be careful that it doesn't just get charged down and defeated. But a lot of little stutter step micro here keeps these hedgehogs in the battle. It's starting to get veterancy onto these units, which is going to make them stronger, and that avatar would benefit from a lot of additional boosts if it can get it.
What I don't know, and if someone in chat knows that has been kind of experimenting with this a little bit more, I don't know if avatar form attack speed impacts how often your rockets recharge. Because like it's one thing to be able to like get out your full salvo rockets every 0.2 seconds instead of every 0.3 seconds, but the big kind of DPS issue with for lack of a better term with hedgehogs is that, you know, they have to go and they have to get their rockets back. And that's why I'm like, yeah, man, hedgehog, sure, it's a little bit more HP, a little bit more range, a little bit more energy region, a little more attack speed, but it's just not great. And now let's drop on the other side. There is a sentry post there, so I don't know how much this is going to get done, especially with the overcharge. But MaNa is not reacting to this. He's not bringing his army out there. He's just running onto the other side of the map. Sentry post is going to try to take this Harbinger down. Okay, the army's trapped here, but it's still the entire production, all the eco going down. And now, I don't like this decision. MaNa's now running back. He's like, oh, I guess I got to deal with this now, but it's only after you lost everything, MaNa. It's very awkward decision making from our Polish Vanguard player in this game one.
It's a force into the engagement at the Stormgate, because right now he's got a Vulcan back there that should be able to clean that up theoretically, but this is a really difficult fight here. The Vulcan of this army does get pulled in by the Weaver. A couple of Hellborn here are also going to make this complicated, and MaNa just does not have the position nor the manpower here. The Stormgate's going to fall to Snoxtar. Snoxtar's going to be able to push things forward, and only barely has MaNa dealt with the damage on that top corner base. Instead, it's just going to be mitigating damage, using those Void Prowlers to jump forward here and continue to force the engagement. MaNa cannot get away. He's just not fast enough to retreat, and unfortunately, the retreat means that his forward pushed base is now going to be in primary target for Snoxtar's army. So now it's going to be forcing the engagement. But man with gun, BeoMulf, we all know what man with gun can do for a human faction.
Yeah, especially with these servo overcharges as well. As we're going to see the Reaver just get targeted down before the last can complete, so the Vulcan stays safe. And now that the boys are pulled here, I guess the robotic children, the servos are pulled as they run across the map, but that overcharge is going to be done soon. And once that overcharge is done, they start to move much slower, so about 8 seconds. But for now, building a habitat, I thought this was going to be a sentry post, but no, it's for the, for the rampart, for the Vulcan here, just to be able to tank at the front lines. MaNa thinks he might be able to push through with this one, with the Repair-O-Matic, with the shield here on top of the Vulcan, eating a lot of that initial attack. And this is before the big upgrades from Snoxtar, right? No Molten Touch, no Miasma, nothing like that. He's trying to push it. He's got Quick Draw Hustle here, and the man with gun, he talked about it, doing a really nice job. But Miasma is going to be done soon. Problem is, there really is only one Hex. It does not have the energy required. There's going to be another shield going forward on top of this, on top of the Vulcan. And I think MaNa might have done it here. He's been able to shove through this base that much, absolutely surfacing. And Trap does damage, but it's not enough. And now they're on top of all of the Hellborn. This is the expensive underbelly of this army. This is the anti-heavy part of this army that deals with a lot of these Vulcans. And taking them down matters quite a bit. But Molten Touch is now done here. And we're waiting for another sentry post for the repair. This army of MaNa starting to bleed out a little bit.
But I love the use of the med station here just to be able to heal up these units. It's just it's a delicate back and forth of what units do I want to try and repair. Do I want to repair the Vulcan with a repair-o-matic? Do I want to heal up the bio units with the med station? It's a delicate dance here as these Hellborn are going to start targeting down the buildings. Those are still rather delicate here. A big pull on that Vulcan. That's going to go down, and that's a huge chunk of this army that was really soaking up a lot of the damage and the focus. So now these X's are going to be way exposed. They are now the source of problem here for Snoxtar, and there's enough of this army left to try and quell this down. I mean, it's just largely servos at this point. The exo count is, I mean, it's dangerously low. Both of these players making the most of every single action that they have, but MaNa's gonna have to step back. He can just retreat though. He doesn't have to go all the way back. There's a flat cannon available. That med station can still be used to support this very, very bare bones army, but I think Snoxtar is going to have the defender's advantage. He's just going to be able to run too many units in to reinforce.
Yeah, if this was any other map, he'd probably be fine, but the rush distance here on this map is so low. But we're gonna see another shield go down on top of this Vulcan. It's 1,000 HP. It's very hard to go and cut through. So that's what I'm looking for. It's gonna get stunned up once again. And yeah, the med station's gone. The med station's still here, trying to target down these Weavers as much as possible. Another dash in. Vulcans continue to add into this fight. The miasmas here. Finally, we have enough energy to make that happen. And that's when these light units pop. That's when all the units go down. That singular miasma, this Hexen, buying time, rallying into things, and now MaNa, somehow he's still up in supply. He's still on 4 bases. And this game is not over, but the big rally, that big parade push running across the map, its back has been broken.
Oh, it's the fact that he was able to hang on to that top right base. That actually is the backbone right now, holding MaNa up in this game. He was able to get pushed far forward enough to deal some economic damage to his opponent, and he was able to mitigate his own. So now in response, he's able to pressure out this Stormgate. He should be able to, I think he's going to be able to take it uncontested. There's just way too much risk here for Snoxtar to try and push it.
Does he have enough damage though? This is going to tap out in about 15 seconds or so.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I don't think he kills this. Yeah, he's not going to have enough damage, so he's going to back up. That is the tier 3 Stormgate unclaimed. Did he, who got the tier? Yeah, no, so that was even with the damage buff. Snoxtar got the tier 2.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at the timer on that, but honestly, like preventing the Infernal player from getting to it can also be a win in some way. So not able to capitalize on a further win, but yeah, look at the supplies, 146 to 124. They are slowly starting to separate, and Snoxtar has had to invest a decent amount of his money and his production cycle into getting imps, which is not that terrible here. Drop's going to try and leverage a little bit more damage. It's going to be more of a miasma focused drop instead of just using gaunts, but it's still got to find some tangible damage here. Snoxtar's not out of the woods, and MaNa still needs to find a way to leverage this out. But look at the production tab for Snoxtar. There's nothing. There's no buildings. There's no units that are really being brought onto the map right now. I really feel like he's starting to feel the crunch of his economic downfall.
He's got Elder Shrine done. I mean, we already knew that, right? He's got himself Molten Touch, but he's got that Elder Shrine. That's something as a bottle. He's going to find himself a decent amount of servos in this main base. They're not mining. Not really, but we're going to see, okay, Forsaken Trap is going to be the answer. No miasma. It doesn't quite have enough the energy for it, I think, but it'll be forced off for now as that's the second tier 3 Stormgate getting started. MaNa pushing through the middle of the map here as this drop tries to find this outlying base. It's got himself a sentry post, which is okay. The repair-matic doing a nice job. There we go. Fight on the left side or on the right side. That's going to go take this base down. That's going to be a kill, not a cancel. A couple more of these Shroud Stones get taken down. Is the drop not really being dealt with, but the big thing here, the tier 3 Stormgate looks like it will be claimed by Snoxtar, but at what cost? Because the army of MaNa is backstabbing and diving into this 4th base after killing the 5th. And the question, is there something in this Stormgate that's going to be enough? For now, the Flaming Imps get a really nice impact on MaNa. He's going to get forced back. So he's not going to lose the base, and something coming out of the Stormgate. More Hexen getting added in. Miasma's there, ready to go. It's going to be the Swarm Mother, just a blade of armor. All these Swarmlings are going to run forward. They're going to just eat shots. And without any Atlases on the field, very difficult to deal with. So the Swarmlings move forward. Army on the right. This is a nice fight here. The spells are not getting cast. Vulcans are starting to shred everything. This, on the right side, fantastic. But on the north side of the map, the Mana in a very awkward position. The Vulcan, without any evacs, does not do what it needs to do. And even though you win the fight on the right side here, Miasma goes down, finds some value flaming. It's not getting a lot. But again, it's this fight elsewhere. Mana is, I didn't notice this at the time, he's sitting here on 2,000 resources. His economic, like his macro fell apart in this late game, unfortunately, and he does not, despite having 2,000 Luminite, has nothing to spend it on.
If he was able to get more of these barracks of producing Lancers, he would have something to kind of shove this down because he's protected just enough of his army to be able to jump on top of this underbelly. But that's all that it's going to come down to, and there's just not that much left. And what little bit of production that Mana has is out towards the front. That's going to fall apart here rather quickly. It's a few of these units being rallied off to the right-hand side to try and sacrifice a little bit of the economy, but right now that's not the issue. Mana's problem is he can't build things fast enough to deal with this army. So now he's got a few Exos here that are going to try and come in on the right-hand side, but a well-placed Miasma is going to force those back. They just can't afford to stick around, especially not when inflamed imps are going to come in and flame on all over these valuable, very fragile armies. And I think that the Swarm Mother is going to finally do her thing. She will be swarming. The imps have been brought up offensively. How many times can we say that the workers have been brought offensively? It's not even pulling the boys at this point. We're just entering the imps into the equation.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, right? Because this army, if Mana hits his transitions properly, and I think part of the problem was he just really was not, I think he was only mining on like 4 Therium for a lot of that and flaming it, or sorry, those are Swarmlings, but there's, at this point the game's over. Mana, once you start fighting against this mass Miasma style, right, you get a lot of Hexen on the map, you start to hit this point where you really need evac Atlas. Because they can go and win the range battle, they can just, Hexen like to clump up a little bit, you can take them down. And he just didn't get there. He was only mining on, I think, like very little Therium, especially once the drop of the main happened. So is 1,000 Luminite, not a lot of Therium, not able to make the transition, and Snoxtar takes game number 1.
Yo, we're jumping in. It's cold, it's hot, it's Ember Frost here for game number 2. Mana on the verge, I think, maybe not once, but twice. On the verge of pushing down his opponent, Snoxtar, to win game number 1. Snoxtar just had a resiliency in his engagements that just could not be broken. He had so many moments that he was able to navigate a difficult situation, early game harassment, some engagements that didn't quite go his way, harassment that didn't work for him, and was able to withstand the test of time. And you know what, BeoMulf? He did it all, no dragon. It was all dragonless.
In fairness, he never could afford the dragon. His economy was shattered the entire time. I'm just having a lot of fun, by the way. I know you're talking about, oh, what happened last game and what could he have done different or what happened. I'm just like, there's a little guy in a cave staring at me. A very scary little flaming eyes, right south of the north, not Moonwell, the north Wellspring.
Oh my gosh, scooch up a little bit and look at his little teeth.
Oh, Manarino, this is your magnum opus. This is your magnum opus right here. It is, it's my favorite part of the map. The eyes just like, peekaboo, hi. It's like my cat, right? When she's not allowed into a room and she's trying really hard. And you just got to see like the face under the door a little bit, like desperately trying to get in.
It also giving me, I've seen like on TikTok, the video sticking my phone camera into the couch to see if my cat's lurking there. And you know the cat's going to be there the moment the video pops up, but the phone goes in and it's just like, whoop, there it is. Pair of eyes.
As Fiends do win the battle in the Scout War. So they're kind of interesting, actually. We've seen 2 scouts get made by Mana. I'm wondering if this is kind of a math thing. So it's 16 damage against Well, actually not 16 damage versus workers because they don't have the light tag anymore. But kind of curious here whether there's some math there that is useful for him to work out. But as it stands, couple scouts, got a hog. Game continues, third base on the way. Yeah, you know, it's Ember for us. It's a macro map. We're not going to have a lot of explosion through the first 3 or 4 minutes. Everyone, a little harassed. Maybe these fiends can get something done, but this is primarily like a second Stormgate and onwards type of game.
Dimensional rift.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just don't know if I, like, from a tactical standpoint, it's such a risk. It's such a risk to just constantly give that up because you can put yourself at a disadvantage. Like if they grab a Soul Forge, you get a Soul Forge for an Infernal player, you're going up against 2 dragons at some point in the game. And it is I don't know, it's a high risk with like a medium reward, in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see if that meta changes over time. If we start to see maybe some more dedicated builds. Oh, this is very bold. This was a little bit more brave than I would have cared for him to be, but he is able to retreat in time here. This is going to be Snoxtar claiming this. There should be more than enough damage for the Infernal player to grab that in, and that is going to be the case. But now we are going to see a Faerun, and that's going to turn into some pretty deep aggression. And I don't know. It's a tough situation. It's hard to know exactly what the best case scenario is for this game, but I definitely know right now Mana's going to have to play on the back foot.
He will, but I mean, attacking into a Vanguard that has sentry posts, that has servo overcharge, I'm not sure I buy it. Not at this stage of the game, not the position that Mana's in. I don't think that Snoxtar was going to be able to break him. Based on maybe if you have Infernal Fury, but this is a 6-minute Infernal Fury. This takes a lot longer. So from that perspective, Mana fights a little bit, doesn't really lose anything, got his third base up on time. And I legitimately do think that in some games, and I think specifically for Vanguard. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I haven't played a lot of 1v1 on this patch yet. I've been diving into the campaign. But I think Vanguard, it makes a lot more sense for them to just kind of give the first Stormgate and play for the second because of A, the quality of rewards, and B, often, maybe not this game, but often you'll see Infernal players overcommit to the first Stormgate, and then their tech isn't where it needs to be for the second Stormgate. And then you got a couple Vulcans or something, and life can be pretty happy. But for now, a bunch of Hedgehogs are going to show up onto the other side of the map, looking to target down these Tribute Pyres. And I do want to point out, as we're going to see the Tribute Pyre die, I really enjoyed how Refresh was playing with his Tribute Pyres in that last series. Because he was not just using them, keeping them on Shroud, putting them on bases. He was using them to expand his Shroud. He was dropping them all over the map as vision, as something you can kind of start spreading Shroud off of. And it made the map, and like it filled the map very quickly with this map control that he was looking for.
And that's something that Snoxtar is doing a lot less of. And it's not necessarily a requirement, right? I mean, we think about that in StarCraft 2 with like Zerg Creep. It's almost a necessity to be able to deal with that. Oh, as these units are just going to get completely cornered off. It's not the entirety of the army, but that is an expensive loss here for Mana, that these units getting caught out of position. Well, and the Hedgehogs are going to just fly their way in here as well. I really don't know. I don't know if that was part of the grand design there, but now we've got Hedgehogs that really haven't found a whole lot of damage, that are dealing with their own positioning issues. That's going to be challenging to try and figure out here. Oh, that's just going to put Mana down so far. Oh, that's a difficult loss to endure here. And now you're going to have to wind up and prepare for the follow-up push. Snoxtar is going to have a lot of opportunity. You know, it might just turn into aggression on that Stormgate, and that would be just fine, all things considered. But there's a Harbinger on the map. Mana knows that there's a Harbinger. He's going to have to find a way to deal with this split proxy aggression, and behind it, it's more and more tech from Snoxtar. Miasma, Molten Touch, it's all underway for the Infernal player.
Yeah, the problem with that as well is, granted, Snoxtar didn't really commit to this super hard, but overcharge only lasts for 40 seconds. So by forcing the overcharge early, it did mean that you just kind of wait a second and the follow-up could be really strong. And for now, though, decent amount of Hedgehogs here. Hellborn on the high ground. Molten Touch not done yet, and Hellborn don't do splash damage anymore. So they're great against heavy units, and you would like to target down the medtechs, but please, camera, target down the medtechs. But against Hedgehogs, they're only okay. It does seem, though, that Snoxtar will be able to go and secure this second Stormgate, just not quite claiming it just yet to force MaNa into a little bit longer of a fight. But that Stormgate's going to get claimed soon. He's got enough army to kind of fight both in second Stormgate. Now here, please, just get the Necroless, put him in the Harbinger, but no, okay, it's going to be Void Prowlers. That's fine. It's really nice to be able to just jump behind the army and body block them in. I'm not sure he needs that, but it is a tool that's now available to him. As he's going to force MaNa back once again. Void Prowler's going to find this extra base where all the servos are going to fall down. So MaNa back on 3 bases functionally. He's losing that 3rd base. Hellborn look exposed though, Rushy. Hedgehogs dive on top of them, and that's going to be very nice here for MaNa.
That was about the best case scenario there to shut down this push. But again, it's going to come at a cost here. MaNa's going to lose out on that 4th base in its entirety. There is still a lot of push potential here with these Void Prowlers that are going to be able to jump up into the main base. So that's going to be units that are very exposed that will be tough to reinforce here without leaving the front line open. And you've still got one Hellborn able to work away at that front line. Snoxtar able to separate his supply count against his opponent. MaNa having a difficult time. He deals with the aggression in the main base, but once again, at what cost? It cost a base, it cost more workers. It's not down and out of it just yet, but the tech continues to roll forward for Snoxtar, and with a dragon on the production tab, it's going to start looking very difficult for MaNa to really get some secure footing in this game.
He does have his 4th base on the way once again. He is able to deal with the Void Prowlers, but yeah, it's an economic problem. It's an infrastructure problem, but he is able to hold on, right? If you look at the supply, it's within 15. He's getting his system shock up. And we're at this position right now where a lot of Snoxtar's income is locked. 750 is locked away for the next 45 seconds or so with his dragon on the way. So the numbers look good for Snoxtar, and they are, but he's going to lose his base on the north side. That is a kill, not a cancel, as a couple fiends try to go on the run by. It's not really going to accomplish all that much. So this army of Snoxtar, despite, you know, having this decent trade, is looking very small. As Miasma going to go try to get on top. Of course, that does 10x damage, just 20 damage a second against all of these hedgehogs when you're staying inside of it. If you're not, it's just a curse. But it is a very nice tool to deal with these rather small units. It's not quite as much technically the old, and I'm talking like 6 months old. Miasma would have done 23 damage a second to these hedgehogs because it was 10%, but still doing 20 damage a second is very solid against these kind of clumped up units. And that buys the time now, Rushy. The dragon is out. Hogs are going to have to be the answer.
A Stormgate has appeared.
And it's unfortunate that I think it's going to be a difficult answer, a very, very flimsy one. They are going to have a lot of mobility, but you're having to use them in their least mobile way to actually respond to the army that's here. And Spriggan get added into the mix, so now we're going to be able to slow those units more. The Stormgate's going to be taken by MaNa, but it's going to come at the cost of his base. I mean, everything in the main base is now just completely ravaged, and it has taken him so long just to get that. He doesn't even take the resource from it. So what was it all for, MaNa? What was it all for?
Oh, that's really nice. Double Miasma on top of the Bastard Hair from all these servos. So it's a ton of Phantoms in the main base as well. Snoxtar, he's just going to back up with the rest. He's like, yeah, the rest of the army's here. I don't want to fight that. That's fine. I killed off every single worker that you have, the vast majority of them in the main base and the natural. And all the hogs, they siege up to deal with the Spriggans. That's something. I was going to say, well, the Phantoms dive on top. But yeah, you got enough. You got enough Vulcans here, and the Nano Swarm is going to be fine there. Problem is, again, the economy main base natural is pretty heavily shattered, and things keep continuing. And what's the answer? It's, well, okay, I was going to say it's Soul Forges, and I don't know how I feel about it, but getting a bunch of extra med techs, feels pretty good.
It's better than nothing, but I worry that it's going to be here. MaNa is now going to try and force a base race situation. Comes up with the Hedgehog. pick off the base that's building, but I'm confident it's just going to be Snoxtar coming back. There's decent flaming imps here onto this army, and it's dismantling an army that was already kind of a little bit flimsy. Good use of the imps by Snoxtar. It was going to be guaranteed damage no matter what because he wasn't going to be able to get there in time, but now it's going to be an intercepting force here. The Dragon's going to be able to jump on top of this army. Springer are going to make sure that none of these units are able to walk away. The Hedgehogs are going to do their best to try and attack these air units, and they will be effective, but it's not going to be nearly enough damage here. The Flayed Dragon not going to sustain any meaningful damage. These Hedgehogs are going to try and get away. They realize their efforts are futile, and it's a 240 supply to 83 BeoMulf. I'm not a mathematician, but I know that that large number is going to be very difficult to overcome.
Yeah, more stuff isn't better than less stuff is. Now the Dragon goes on top, gets the curse, breathes it back in, 25% damage to everything. Everything dies, and Mana falls down as Snoxtar goes up 2-0 in this final match of the day. Here we are, Rushy. Maybe our last game of the day. Game number 3. Snoxtar up 2 games on Mana. What do you want to see different from Mana in these next couple games?
I think largely comes back to that mid-game timing. We saw that a lot in the previous series where not Refresh. Who did Refresh play?
Mana.
Why can't I think of it?
Snoxtar.
It was Nox. Refresh did play. Wait, no. I'm walking away from that. I can't remember what I'm not remembering, but it's the mid game. It's the mid game. I think the previous series we saw that was a primary concern. If you have an Infernal player that is able to just take that like 5 to 8 minute window and do what they want to do, it becomes so difficult to keep up with them. And at the point where you can't really just keep up with the pace of your opponent, you've got to disrupt them somehow. And I think Mana found a lot of success in game number 1 doing just that. And I love that he's headed in that direction right now. The minute 40 Hedgehog going to come and provide some of that disruption that is needed. The unfortunate part for Mana is that Snoxtar is opened up with a pretty reserved Iron Vault. So gonna get some decent damage done here. Yep, can chase that Fiend down. Once it's just one Fiend, I think it's a better engagement for Mana, but disruption is the name of the game.
Yeah, just kind of like the good old Reaper versus Ling micro in the early game that we happen I get a lot in StarCraft, but the big deal is the Conclave's done, right? This game can snowball, and we saw this snowball in the, I want to say, yeah, with the Refresh versus Mana series. Refresh was playing Infernal in that one, but he did not open Conclave. He did not get himself a Shroud Stone. And then the Hedgehog started to snowball. But because you open quick Conclave, because you have the Ritual Chamber on the high ground and you're not trying to greed for a third shrine, now getting the gods out, even if you lose one or two, which is not ideal, even if you lose a couple, you're going to be able to trade for one of these Hedgehogs maybe. You're buying space. You get time for the Shroud Stone to get up, which, by the way, Rushy, Shroud Stone new model was added in the last patch, but they made it a little even prettier. They added this, like, I don't know, gold highlights on the chained god. So even more so now, of course, with the Soulbrand Chakrams now just about halfway done. Eventually, these hogs are going to start to take the damage per second. That means it's rather hard for them to go and commit to this.
Yeah, it's the moment that Curse becomes a constant applier force. That's when you really have to be cautious here. Oh, good use of that veterancy here for the Hedgehog is going to be able to stick around. It does get a little bit of bonus damage, but yeah, like we said, that Curse now gets applied. Mana should instantly turn around, or at bare minimum, he can't fight on Shroud. He's got to be able to find different engagements. However, he's done enough harassment damage here. He might be able to secure this Stormgate all on his own, and that does seem to be the case. It does come at the cost of a little bit of his economic position, but it's a decent sacrifice to make sure that you can get the benefits of this first one. He's got, wait, why do we have servos here? He's going back in.
He might be. He's overcharged the servos to bring them forward. He's going to repair all of these Hedgehogs. And then, yeah, you know, I don't like this. I like the idea. Conceptually, it's kind of cool. You go for this kind of servo push with the Vulcan, but he's already overcharged the servos, which means that overcharge is going to be done soon. You only have not enough energy in the natural. there is enough energy in the main base. But you get the Faerun, but the idea here is you overcharge the servos, you bring them with the Vulcan, you go for that attack. But now, overcharge is on cooldown for a little bit longer, so this attack is not really going to do all that much. And these servos are just kind of in a random spot. They're not... Maybe he was going to go try to take a third base here. I don't know, but servos are in a bit of a random spot. They weren't brought back properly. I don't know, Rushy. I understand the idea. This is a build that has been strong at times, but the way MaNa is pulling it off, I'm not sold.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I mean, now just sitting with these workers kind of off to the right-hand side, it is going to be in position for maybe a third base, maybe. I don't know. It feels very all in. Feels like I'm not worried about regaining these resources. It's not that important. And then the third base goes. Okay, I'm confused. There must be something. Yeah, maybe those just got run off to the side and he wasn't quite aware of it. It could be a million things. The important thing though is that those workers did come back. The third base is going to be placed down. We do have a Faerun that can still provide some pretty decent coverage to these Hedgehog that are going to be able to dance back and forth. But with Weaver added into the mix, that's going to be a difficult thing to try and overcome. There are going to be some Vulcan drops that are taking place here. Wild Joe flying into that main base. This could be a decent position here, getting the Vulcan into the main base, forcing this army back and away. But I love the use of the harassment here. Already baiting out one of the lashes from the Weaver as well. That's just going to make this push by the Vulcans that much stronger.
Remember, Infernal Fury not done for another 20 seconds or so. So those nice extra stuns on top of the Vulcans, not super available. Reaper Rush is done, so at least the Gaunts can do a little bit more as we see percentage damage here being taken down. And while you can't pick things up that are stunned with no anti-air, nothing really stops the evac from just hovering over and picking up eventually. So drops doesn't get a lot done though. They got like maybe 2 imps, if that. Not even sure it killed anything. So it was a good distraction, but Snoxtar did a nice job. He made sure that he was able to actually kill off a couple Hedgehogs as well. But the drop goes in once again. These Vulcans are right back up to full with the Faerun, and they can certainly kill off one of the Weavers. It actually stuns out, chain lock, stun locks the Weaver, gets the lash down as well. But at the very least, we do have that upgrade complete. Infernal Fury forces him back, but Shadow Flyers not going to be enough here.
Ooh, nice little protection.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's like a very StarCraft 2 move, right? Where you got the drop and you got things behind it. You're just kind of getting this position set up. It's kind of cool. Now the attack continues in earnest here. Lots of Vulcans, Faerun as well. As we're going to see the Medtechs, they're going to get picked up, saved. And without your big tech units, you got to be careful. The rest of the army was in the main base dealing with potential drop. MaNa identifying that one. And we're seeing these Vulcans starting to shred the HP of the army. It's going to look like a lot, then all, not a lot, then all at once. And we're going to see this army start to fall apart pretty quickly here. Okay, they're going to get one of the Vulcans. But now we're starting to see the Gaunts fall down just a little bit. The Faerun, though, out of energy. Medtech's running low as well, as we're going to see the Vulcans start to get cleaned up that much more. More reinforcements finding their way forward. This Vulcan is going to fall down. And I think the Medtech, yeah, returning to hangar back home. No safety. At least he didn't die, but this was a very good defense from the side of Snoxtar. It was a scary timing. It might still cut through here with just the amount of healing these Medtechs do, but with the Hellborn on top, looks like it's going to be enough. So Snoxtar holds on. I think you want to back up here a little bit. I think you want to disengage, though. It's a little bit too needless trading, but he's got Miasma now, about halfway done. Elder Shrine on the way. He's getting the tools that he needs to defend against this.
Yeah, I'm not sure that you want to overcommit into some of those fights, especially with Hedgehogs. They're so quick and they're so weaselly to be able to dive in just like this. They can kind of push on forward and pick off some of these expensive units. And I don't mind seeing that kind of sacrifice from MaNa if he's going to be able to tap down units that are either like going to take a long time to produce, which for Infernal is not a major issue, or if they're going to be super expensive. And the Luminite cost for those Hellborn are definitely worth the potential investment, especially since MaNa's in a pretty decent spot. Not able to claim, didn't have enough time to claim that Stormgate. So unfortunately, just another situation where it's too little too late, gets some damage done, but isn't able to capitalize on the whole reason that fight existed to begin with.
Yeah, I love that we're seeing more often now this kind of idea where, oh, Stormgate's worth fighting over, but it's not the end of the world. So we're seeing a lot of these Stormgates that kind of end up with them not being claimed to draw in some ways. We're going to see the Weaver just get targeted down here. The Hogs are just going to take that thing down. Without Weavers, it's a little awkward. So I'm sorry. I said Weaver Master, or I said Hex and Mastery. No, it's Hex and Adept Training. So they're Forsaken Traps. But the really nice thing when you drop Miasma on top, 20 damage a second, 200 total damage, that's where life becomes a little bit dicier, right? That's where these Hogs really start to struggle. But without that being up here, it's not going to be as strong as the Hellborn. Start to do a little bit more. They don't have Molten Touch then. So they're not doing that extra damage per second where these long fights can often be surprising, maybe, for the Vanguard player because, you know, you Molten Touch, you get Cursed, there's a Miasma there, and everything just starts to bleed down. Without those upgrades just yet, MaNa's still able to get pretty solid trades.
I like the economic shift for MaNa. He's able to get his 4th base behind it. I mean, the RTS legend kicking in. All of those macro mechanics just reflexively taken over. So I love that. Ooh, a lot of workers on Therium right now as he's going to dive on into this 4th base location here and put down a little bit more pressure. I don't think he can afford to stick around for too much longer on only Hedgehog and Medtech. It's going to start to become a very difficult situation, especially when Spriggans show up and now you have to force yourself into either defense against those Spriggan or offense against the units on the ground. And right now, choosing neither is a death sentence. These units are going to have to retreat back and away, but these Spriggan can continue to chase. Miasma finally getting dropped down here. That 20 set damage per second. Really putting in some work. It's a drop in the main base, though, that's not going to be nearly as effective. Reinforcing Hedgehogs will start pushing all of these units back and away. But what really did this cover? It really didn't do a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of units being used in the main base. And now the fight out in the center of the map, more Miasma. These units are just driving into it. BeoMulf, they're getting themselves all covered in curse.
They are. That drop in the main base, by the way, it was like a single Hedgehog. It didn't do anything. So, yeah, you're right. Not a lot of those accomplished. But now, Hogs are in anti-air mode. They're starting to shred down these Spriggans as much as possible, especially with the Sky Mines. But even still, you're just kind of forced to sit in the Miasma. So not really a great option there. The Spriggans doing what they can. More Hedgehogs starting to arrive. The Miasma just chunking them down. You look at the damage they're taking because they can't move in this sieged up position. And I think Snoxtar's done. I think at this point, ignoring all the Stormgates, but just luring MaNa into that attack on the 4th base. When Flaming Imps were done and taking out a lot of the stuff, well, I think Snoxtar has found everything he needs, but it goes back to the early game a little bit as well. Pulling those servos for something that wasn't really a timing, having them just kind of sit there and not do much of anything. It slowed MaNa down. It kind of slowed down his 3rd base. MaNa, though, taps out, says, good game, was fun, well played. So he's going to secure third place in this tournament. Snoxtar 2nd, Refresh 1st, and Oriole rounding it out at 4th. Of course, if you like this and you want more Stormgate action, following everything, make sure to go sub to the YouTube channel, follow me on Twitch, but also go follow twitch.tv/RushySC because he is streaming Stormgate quite often. And you should go watch him because he's a good guy. For now, though, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.